There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And that voice is actually his. But before we go there, I have to talk to my friend and cohort, Brichelle. You know, Brichelle, it's great to have you here as a regular, well, as being the host of the show, really. And you really have excelled in that role. And I'm so excited to get to see you every day. It's like I get to have a bit of chocolate every day. It's kind of cool. And and Brichelle is with us. Would you like to introduce our guest for the hour?
Yes, you guys had a great conversation. So me and Christopher are just barely meeting. And Kevin, I do agree with you. It's like getting to work in the dream job with your best friend. And you know, I think that's pretty lucky. So today we have Christopher Bylone here with us. He has two websites we're going to talk about. InnovationUnbiased.com is one, and the other is IKnowIBelongWhen.com. So we'll get to talk about all the fun things that Christopher does and how he got to that point in his life. So welcome. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Thank you so much for that introduction. And what a great way to start out the conversation, because as somebody who talks about belonging on the daily, I can already sense that you two have a great sense of belonging right here. And so it's just great to be able to join in on that conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, I like to say that I manifested her, but more importantly, I manifested this conversation that we're going to have with you, because this conversation that we're going to have is very, very important to all of us everywhere. And we are really excited about having you here and your websites and all the things that you do, because one of the premises of our show is that we are all one, and that we all belong to each other, and that we are all connected. And it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what sex you are. It doesn't matter who you love, that we are all connected in the fabulous gospel according to I guess it's me that says that we belong to each other and we need to take care of each other and be kind to one another and stuff. And I know that in the conversation that we had, Christopher, that you subscribe to all of that as well, even in these less than perfect times that we live in.
Well, I think we probably need to subscribe to it more in these less than perfect times, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have to remind people that we have to be kind to one another. And kind is also about being nice, but it's really about being kind. And how are we ensuring that we are telling our fellow human brothers, sisters, siblings, that they have a place to belong right here? I also think we need to go a little step further and also tell our animal friends that they also have a place to belong. Because it also feels like sometimes we're telling them that they don't belong on this earth, and they just as much as we do.
Yeah, the trees, the birds, the bees that we cut down and take their oxygen, and they're home too. I love that you said that.
She is the one who likes to. She lives in Utah. And where she is, there's a place where she can go, and she can sit on a rock in a river and just watch the world and nature and everything go by. It's a very healing, meditative process, isn't it, Brichelle?
Yeah, and it's so different than you see families interacting at the store. You know what I mean? They're caught up in the clutter and the life and the movement. And then you also see people, maybe it's so cool because I get to recognize when I've been that person that hasn't realized when time stands still and things are so peaceful, and that is created out of choice. And for all of us to kind of recognize that, and instead of have the other person be the problem, have them be the bridge between anything in life. I know that's got to make some sort of sense to you, Christopher, right?
It does. I mean, I will tell you, I would rather be in the woods on a hike than sitting in my office, right? I mean,
Right.
I am somebody who loves nature. I love to go seek out waterfalls. It's just something that I find so peaceful in them. And so on the weekend or just any day that I don't need to be in the office, you will find me on the trail.
Yeah. Or even just like realizing that we can create those moments when we aren't in that place, right? There's got to be moments you've sat in your office and you're like, okay, I'm at the bottom of a waterfall right now and all of these things, but you could put yourself in that energy space to move forward with your day when things
Yes.
were a little off and you weren't grounded, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I want to share this with everybody because I think it's important. If you're saying, I don't know what you're talking about, this nature thing and trees and grass and all this other stuff. Next time you have an opportunity, I want you to walk up to a tree. And you may want to do this when you're alone so everybody doesn't think you're nuts. But I want you to put your hands
No, do it in front
on
of
the
everybody.
tree. Do and invite them to do it too, because it's like, you won't believe what I feel here. Come here, feel this. Because if you put your hands onto the trunk of a tree, you will feel the vibration coming from the live creature that it actually is. Christopher, does that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we forget that plants are living beings as well. As somebody who grew up on a farm, I have my bachelor's degree in agriculture science. And so, right, I mean, plants are living creatures just as they actually can feel. People don't realize it, but they actually feel when you cut them, right? And so we don't think that they do, but they do. And it's interesting, when I was in grad school, I had to write a paper. I was in grad school for higher ed administration, and it was an organizational design class. And one of the papers I had to write was how a organization is like an organism. And I chose the tomato plant of all things, and had to draw an analogy between how an organization and a tomato plant was similar. Now, if that's not a grad school paper for you, I don't know.
Well, and you said something key. You said that we don't realize the life in things. We kind of do that with each other as humans. Although you'd think we're aware of it, we treated each other as maybe not the same.
But yeah, I also think we put people on different pedestals. We put people who, we only see on a screen and we don't think they're human.
Like
And
Kevin.
so
Just kidding.
yeah, so I think we sometimes, especially in this day and age where we're all virtual, right? Most of us are only going to interact in a virtual space, and we forget that there's a heartbeat on the other side of the screen. And so it's really easy to be very unkind or inhuman when you're not interacting with that person on the daily, right? It's very different when you are sitting next to that person in class or at work or, in your community center, your church, your synagogue. You're going to think twice about how you treat that person. But when it's all online and you're just in these virtual conversations, and then you probably never see that person again, you feel a little bit more emboldened to not be nice. And we don't realize, we all had different agendas that we were having as we came to this conversation, right? Different things were happening in our lives that none of us saw, right? And so when we show up here, we have to remember that there are 3 humans sitting having this conversation. And so how do we make sure that we are kind and that we're treating people with respect? And, even though I am the guest here, I want to also make sure that I'm creating a space that that you belong in this conversation too.
Thank God.
Absolutely. And Christopher, I just got to tell you this real quick. Rochelle and I have met one time. and the time that we've been together, because it's all been online and it's all been virtual. So I picked them up at the airport when they were flying into Seattle, and we put their luggage in the back, and her family just gets in the back, and she's in the front, and I get into the driver's seat, and I hear from the back, it's like, I hear that voice, and that voice belongs to an actual person. And then I look at Rochelle, and she's just staring at me, and I said, what? And she said, I can't believe that voice is coming from an actual, real human being.
I said, I can't believe you're real. Mhm. And this is after working with Kevin for a year, right? Like, we've built a relationship. He's become my best friend. It's like somebody I have known all my life, in all of my lifetimes. But there was a different sense. I could feel the energy so much different and so much stronger with him actually physically sitting in front of my face. And it made me look at a lot of other things that way, right? Like, this morning, I realized that everybody at my local coffee shop, since I do a lot of virtual, I love going in the mornings and going to get my favorite coffee. I order the same thing every time. And they all know me. It doesn't matter anymore who's working in the morning. They know who I am. They put my beans, my chocolate covered beans, on top of my cup. They'll have a conversation, ask me what I've got planned for the day. And I realized, like, weeks ago, this was just me getting my coffee and doing this and that. But now I look forward to waking up, seeing one of those girls in the morning, having that conversation. The way that I am able to set myself up, because I see the purpose in the things I do and the relationships I've built. Some of us, we don't do that. We just want, okay, next person, this and that, we'll go to the store and we'll cook dinner and we'll take the kids and all these things, but we're not really there in any of it.
Well, it's about creating human connection, right? And how are we connecting with our fellow human being? How are we treating each other with kindness? And, yes, everybody has a job to do, but how are we making sure that the person on the other side of that conversation knows that they are valued and welcomed?
Exactly.
And if you are that person that walks into a grocery store and you're looking at your list and you're looking at all the things that you got to get, but you're not looking at the human aspect of the other people that are there, I'm telling you, you're missing the boat. You really would be better served if you were to pay attention to everyone that's around you, because there are going to be people in all different states of where they are. They're going to be disinterested people, angry people, and they're going to be people that resonate with you, that you can smile with and say hello to and stuff. And isn't that what being human is all about?
Yeah. And I think it's, sometimes, you mentioned interacting with somebody's angry. Well, you don't know why, right? And so there's definitely a reason why they're angry. And humans, now I'm not a psychologist by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a reason why people have emotions. And when you connect with that individual and you come at it from a place of giving them grace, and just connecting on a human level, you may change their anger into happiness, right? I know that standing in line and I'm the next person to check out, and maybe the customer in front of me wasn't treating the cashier in the nicest of ways, right? We see those interactions all the time. And when I get up to the cashier, they're going to be a little grumbly, right? Because they were just treated not with kindness. And now I could respond in kind, right? And say, oh, well, I'm going to be grumbly too. But no, I'm just going to have a smile on my face and say, hi, how are you? Right? Because hopefully I could change their day, their interaction, and hopefully have a positive experience. Now if they're still grumbly, okay, great. Like, I'm not going to change their complete mood, but you know what? I'm going to at least make it as a positive experience as I possibly can be, because I also don't want to leave grumbly either.
Yes.
However, it's like, even when we're having a really bad day, right? Like I'm getting ready to travel tomorrow, right? I'm in Charlotte. There's a snowstorm coming on the East Coast, right? And I know that potentially tomorrow travel is going to be a nightmare. And then there are going to be really angry people in the airport tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been in those situations before. I need the airline attendants to help me if my flight gets delayed. Now, am I going to be the one who is just angry and bitter about the flight being delayed or flight being canceled? Yeah, I'm annoyed. But if I approach them and I make it sound like it's their fault, they're not willing to help me.
Yeah.
But if I approach them and say, hey, I've done this so many times, been like, girl, I know your day is miserable. And
like,
right? Like my day is miserable too. How can we help each other? Like how do we get through this together? Because I know you're the only one who can help me and I'm stranded. And so, but I also know you probably have 50 other people you got to help too. So how can I help you? What do you need from me? And so I think that that's part of it, is about that human connection, and making sure that people just understand that we're both human beings in this situation. And let's make it as positive as possible, even if it's a shitty situation.
Yeah. What do you have to lose? Why make it worse? I have a story on that I'd
Exactly.
love to share when we come back from this break. And a question that I would love to ask you. So Kevin, go ahead and take us to break. Oh, and before we do that, if you like this conversation and you feel like you understand, go to Christopher's website. Either one, we'll talk about both, innovationbiased.com and I know I belong when.com. And we'll be back to talk about exactly the difference in those. And then I'll share my story.
And Christopher, you have inspired me to play this. The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. And still, they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this: be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin. Brachelle is right there. And Brachelle, our guest is
Christopher Bylone.
And Christopher, what do you think of that piece?
That was beautiful. That was really, really beautiful. And I have a story to share that I was thinking about that as I was listening. But I know, Brachelle, you said you had something you wanted to share before we went to break. So
Yes. I want to hear your story so we can move on in the conversation. But just going back a little bit, I was in the store the other day and I noticed that the lady behind me only had a few items and I did not have a few items. And she was elder. So I thought to myself, why stand in the way of her being able to move on with her day? So I told her, you can go ahead and go in front of me. And she was stunned. She didn't really say anything. And I thought to myself, did she hear me? I said, ma'am, you can go ahead of me. I have more stuff than you. She said, oh dear, no. And I'm like, yes, just go and get in line. But we are so used to each other reacting out of unkindness that when you do show someone kindness, sometimes they're very confused and don't know how to take it. And it was just a beautiful moment, especially in that everything stopped. And I hope that she remembers that for the rest of her life. And I hope somebody else sees her again and lets her go in front of them rather than to wait. So, Christopher, I'd love to hear your story on kindness as well.
yeah, but it's a little sad that just being kind is not normal.
Yeah.
right? We've gotten into a place in our society where kindness is not the norm.
Mm-mm.
And when you are kind, people don't know how to receive it.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that through these types of conversations that we're having, on this show, on my show, I Know I Belong When, that we can start to get back to kindness being the norm, because it's not right now. But thank you for doing that, right? I think it's just a way of one small act can lead to more. So I think, so for me, the thing that was coming to mind listening to that video over break is in the working world. One of the things I think about is being kind is also about being honest. Giving people honest feedback, even if it's not feedback that they might see as positive, right? That might be constructive. I know I've made mistakes as a leader. And have always been really thankful when I've had other leaders be kind enough to tell me when I was making a mistake, or as my former boss would say, understanding the shadow in which you cast in the organization. And making sure you understand how that shadow is landing on others, both in the positive and in the negative way, right? Especially in the negative way, because you don't always see it, right? And so to me, kindness is about being honest with somebody, not just about being nice, right? Especially, in a performance review, you shouldn't be hearing the bad stuff once a year, right? Like that, it needs to be happening on the constant. Also the praise too. Don't wait to praise somebody once a year in their performance review, right? You have to, both positive and negative feedback needs to be given on the daily, and that's being kind.
And sometimes people confuse being nice with being kind, and they're actually two different things.
Yes.
When you are being kind, I fired somebody one time and I was being kind. And I said, you don't like this job, do you? And he said, I hate this job. But my wife makes me come to work because I need the paycheck. And I said, I'm going to give you a week. Go and you don't have to show up. And it's just between you and me, but you go find something that fills your soul, that you want to do. And so he left. I saw him at a convenience store several months later, and he couldn't be thankful enough. I hated that job, and I found a job that I just love. My wife is happier. I'm happier. And thank you for giving me that little kick and shove out the door, because that's what I needed to make myself better and to make my life better. And so being nice is not necessarily being kind. Being kind is much better than being nice.
Yes.
Agreed.
It's not fake. When you think of being nice, it's like, I almost think of it, Christopher. Have you ever convinced yourself of something you definitely know is not true? Like, let's say that right now I try to convince myself I'm so angry. I am so mad. It's like in the sense of being nice to somebody, are you expecting something in return? It reminds me of fake it till you make it. Don't be nice to somebody because you're being fake to yourself or them. Kindness comes from the days that are hard. If you are mad, if you are sad, whatever you just went through, and now you've got another person in front of you to deal with, you're not being nice to them because you have to. You're being kind because that's what's good for your soul. And you feel it, right? It's reciprocated. Kevin, is it true in the sense of, you mentioned this at the beginning of the show, if you're not doing something out of the purity of it, it either comes back to teach you a lesson, or you're reciprocated the energy that wasn't pure, like back to yourself?
Well, yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Well, as an example, I've got to share this with you. When I was married, the nice thing to do was when she said, "How do I look in this?" The nice thing to do was say, "Oh, you look great, and you look fine." But the kind thing would have been to say, "No, I wouldn't wear that if I was you." because at the end of the day, she came back and said, I had a girlfriend that told me I looked horrible. Why didn't you tell me? Well, I was being nice. Rather than the kind thing was to not put her through that. And we do that in all kinds of manners and ways when in our interactions with each other is we can be nice, but it's better to be kind and truthful and thoughtful and with still strong boundaries to protect yourself and all of those things that I mentioned in the video. So yeah. So Christopher, do you agree with any of that?
Oh, 100%, 100%. You know, it's, you know, I also think about, you know, being now living in the South, right? I grew up in the Northeast. I'm a Jersey boy. Now I live just outside of Charlotte. And there is this, you know, Southern nice, you know, the, oh, bless your heart. And it's really not nice.
They don't mean that at all.
No, they don't mean that at all. It means the exact opposite.
God bless you.
Yeah. And so, you know, clutch your pearls. So yeah, but I do think, yes, you need to be kind. I mean, there are times when you know, my boyfriend will be like, yeah, no, don't wear that. And I'm like, ooh. But he's right.
Should I return it then? I could get my money back.
Or been like, that color isn't good on you. And I've been like, well, that's my favorite color. And he's like, yeah, never wear that again.
Choose a different.
Right. So it's about being kind, because why would you want somebody to like think, oh my God, this is the greatest outfit ever, and then they go out and you're like, and then they're getting told not the nice things, right? You know, so yeah, I 100%, I'm with you right there.
And I learned this lesson. I've never told this on any platform ever, but this is kind of important. When I was a little younger, my wife and I and a friend went to a water park. And so we were all in our bathing suits. She was wearing a one-piece bathing suit, but the problem with her suit was the reinforced fabric didn't go high enough to cover all of her pubic hair that was then showing through and my friend didn't say anything because he was being nice, and I didn't say anything because I was being nice, until a stranger walked up and said,
you guys.
So it was like, how could you let me go out looking like
what
this?
Is it? Was it at least a female who said something? Because at least in her mind, she could have been like, well, I'm with men, so maybe that's why.
No, it was a female, and the female was being kind. We were being nice to the detriment of her, because then we had to go home right away, and she wore a towel around her waist because she became so self-conscious. So that I never told that story anywhere. And by the way, anyway, so but that.
Ooh, I was not expecting that conversation to happen, but hey, why not?
But that's what we do in the effort to be nice. We don't say what's actually true, and because ultimately, again, and that's one of those instances that came back to bite me, because she yelled at me for days on end.
Oh, I'm sure you were in the doghouse for a really long time.
Really long time. And of course she was dark haired. So, well, never mind. I won't make it more specific than that. But that's so important for all of us. So,
do as someone as you would want in return, right? Like if I had a booger hanging out of my nose, I'm standing in the grocery store, super happy talking to you. Please cut me off and let me know, hey, sweetheart, you got a little, just little things. You don't have to be rude about it. Just tell me. Like, oh my goodness, come on, people. Like, yes, we're human. Yes, we can understand, but we got to kind of look out for each other. If you see something,
to look out for each other, right? Because that's the only way we're going to be able to, just make it in this world. It takes a village.
It does indeed. And by the way, we're talking with Christopher Bylone. Is that right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Good job.
And he's got a podcast, and we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about all the things that he does because it is really important and bringing us all together as one. Because I don't know if you noticed, but we really are. But there's a segment of our society today that is deciding, oh no, you're not, and we're different, and we're not, but indeed we are. And before we go to this break, Christopher, is there anything that you'd like to add to that briefly?
I think it's just about, we just need to continue to be showing up as human beings, and that we need to remember that we all bleed red. We might have different skin tones on the outside, but at the end of the day, if we get cut, it's all red blood.
Well, and the reality is that being human means that at one point or another, you're going to have a booger hanging from your nose.
That is a true statement.
So, Rochelle, wipe your nose. And we'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Are you looking for your daily dose of inspiration? Stay connected to all your favorite shows, music, and news with the Brushwood Media Network app. From Positive Talk Radio to Greatest Vibes Unplugged and so many more uplifting voices around the world, everything you need is right in one place. It's easy to use, too. Always available and designed to keep you inspired 24 hours a day. Go to brushwoodmedianetwork.com and download the app, and you will always have Brushwood Media available on your smartphone. Download it now and make inspiration and music and conversation part of your everyday. And welcome back to Positive Talk. And Rochelle, this is such a great show, and Christopher is such a great guest, and he's also a podcast host, and he does a bunch of different stuff. What else does he do that you've discovered on his websites?
Well, I want to talk about the podcast first, but Innovation Unbiased has got my brain twisted a little bit. So I'm like, what does that mean? So we'll come back to that. But you have a podcast. I believe it is I Know I Belong. When do you know you belong? And what's your podcast?
So as you said, the podcast is called I Know I Belong When. And for me, I know I belong when I can show up as my bold, authentic self. And I do not need to hide any piece of my identity. Mm-hmm. That's when I know I belong. And so if you're on the website, you'll notice the logo has 3 dots after when, because it's an unfinished sentence. And so every guest that joins the show, they have to finish the sentence, I know I belong when. And there's also a difference between knowing you belong and feeling that you belong. So I'm going to talk about this in a kind of a corporate setting a little bit. A lot of organizations, they will define belonging as when somebody feels XYZ. I say belonging happens when you know that your bold, authentic self is welcome, dignified, and loved. And the reason why I say there's a difference between knowing and feeling is because, Rochelle, if you were to come to me and say, Christopher, I just don't feel that I belong here, I will come to you with the laundry list of talking points that somebody has given me to say, this is our company culture, and this is why you should belong here. But if you were to come to me and say, Christopher, I don't know that I belong, I'm going to go, Rochelle, what's going on? What's happening? What was said? What was done? I'm going to go into investigation mode because something made you make a factual statement that said, I don't know that I belong here. And so for you, you've already come to the realization that there was some type of incident, things that happened that made you make a statement of fact. Not a subjective, you made an objective statement. And so for me, that's why I'm focused on the I know I belong one. And so the podcast is there to have conversations with anybody and everybody that has a story of belonging. We talk about the moment you knew you belonged and the moment you knew you did not belong, and what did you do about it? Were you somebody who wanted to engage the organization and try to change the culture to help you belong and others belong? Or did you say, you know what, peace out? It's not my responsibility to help this organization figure out how they're going to change their culture, and you go and find someplace else that you know that you belong. Both of those options are two very valid pathways, right? You do not need to feel pressured to help your organization or the organization that you are in change their company culture. Doesn't need to be your job. That is the folks in leadership roles that set the tone. Now, if you want to help and you want to, hey, I have some ideas, more power to you, and I would welcome that. But it's not doesn't need to be your responsibility.
Yeah. Well, and you saying that, I'm thinking, isn't that so important of what you know and what you feel? Because if you know something, your feelings are going to change, but that itself won't. Rather than maybe if it's underlying in feeling, then the feeling can change.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And also when you say and especially when you say, I know I belong someplace, when somebody tries to change that, it's very easy for you to pick up on it. Think about, the science experiments about frogs in hot water, right? If you put a frog in water and you slowly turn the heat up, it does not know it's getting boiled alive. But if you take a frog and you try to throw it into boiling water, it's going to jump out, right? And so it's this kind of that same analogy. If you already know that you belong someplace, or you're feeling like, oh yeah, I belong here, and somebody is doing things that is going to make you change that statement, you're going to know it right away, right? There's going to be a feeling that happens. There's going to be something that's stirring in your gut that's going, I'm uneasy about this. And then you're going to be able to react to it, kind of that analogy of nip things in the bud. Well, you're going to be able to nip it in the bud. And so it fester and grow to something more. But if you are, if it's slowly changing and you're not realizing it because you haven't figured that out yet, it may grow into something that you actually can't fix.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because then if you have that knowing, you've built a foundation. So maybe if somebody comes to you with something, then that bounces. It doesn't absorb because you don't need to question it. Me and Kevin talk about that a lot. And I think when he first, it's in that like, what do things mean to you? And who are you and why? I was like, oh God, this is going to be a long journey, but a lot of us don't realize we have the choice.
Correct.
Well, and Christopher, and I want to address this because I think it's important. Hopefully, as we go down the way, corporate culture is going to change, and it's going to become more inclusive, and it's going to become more about everyone working together for the common good, regardless of if they're a man or a woman, which means that women need to be respected. And if you're a gay person or whatever it is, that everybody has their place and everybody's working together. How do we convince the folks that, I've been with this company for 25 years and it's never been like this. And now they want all inclusivity and people to get along. I like it the way it used to be, dang it. How do we bring them along out of the Stone Age and into where they can thrive with who they are and begin to understand that how they used to be is not appropriate? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And can I challenge you just a little bit, Kevin?
You can challenge me a whole bunch. I've got broad shoulders.
Just because somebody has Southern twang does not mean that they are in the Stone Age. So
no question about it, but I worked for a company out of Arkansas and there were people within that company.
I get it. Look, as somebody who lived in the Northeast for a very long time and moved to the South, I understand that there are cultural differences. I completely get it. But also I have met some really racist, homophobic, sexist people just as I did in Connecticut, as I do down here in South Carolina.
No
Right?
question
So,
about it.
So I think one of the things that I would say is, again, it's coming back to understanding where the person is at, meeting them where they are. Because there are times when, even in 2026, I can't tell you the number of people who are like, you're the first gay person I met. And I go, what? Right? Like, seriously? Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm going to give them grace, right? I'm going to give them grace because I want to be able to, you attract more flies with honey than you do vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to meet somebody where they are at. This is why I talk about there's a difference between unconscious bias and conscious bias and being purposely unbiased, right? I believe I want people to be purposely unbiased, because what is the exact inverse or opposite of unconscious bias? It's conscious about the biases that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are you going to do about those biases? So I want you to be purposeful in being an unbiased individual. Now, that does not mean you are going to eradicate or eliminate all the biases you have in you. What it means is you are going to develop systems that is going to allow your biases not to have a negative impact on other people. And so recognizing the biases you have and then understanding about how they manifest themselves in others. And so that's really the work that I focus on, is how am I helping people to understand how to be a purposely unbiased person.
And I just have to say that if somebody walked up to you, Christopher, and said, well, you're the first gay man I've ever met, first of all, they are woefully unaware of the people around them. And also the people around them are because of societal pressures and stuff, are behaving a certain way to fit in rather than being who they are. And I think
Yes.
that is a crime.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I will I'll just give you a little bit of an anecdote about, unconscious bias, right? About not understanding. So, as I told you, I grew up in the North and now I live in the South. I also have recently gone through a divorce. And so I'm back on the dating market. Yay me at almost 45. And so, but I have 2 children. And as I've been talking to guys, when I would say I would have children, even being down here in the South, their response was, oh, you were married to a woman? No, I was not. So even gay men, right? And this is different than when I was in the North, right? So cultural differences, right? I mean, this lovely country that we have of ours, you can go to a different state and it can feel like a totally different world in which you are living, right?
Yeah.
So the cultural norm is, if you are a man with children, you were married to a woman.
Mm-hmm.
When I say no, I was in a relationship with a man, it's like their world exploded. They could not fathom the fact that I created a family with another man, right? I can remember back, so it was the summer of 2021. We took our boys on a cross-country trip to Yellowstone. COVID, we were celebrating our 40th birthday, and we said, what are we going to do? We really want to do some type of epic trip, but getting on a plane is probably not the smartest idea at the moment. So we decided that we were going to take a cross-country trip and take 2 weeks. Never again do I want to be in a car for 18 days. Loved it, enjoyed it, never again. But we were out in the Midwest somewhere, and we went to breakfast, and I was the one, taking care of the bill, and my ex-husband and my boys left the restaurant, and so I'm waiting. this lovely waitress who was helping us out our whole meal, sweetest woman in the world, so attentive and kind. Without missing a beat as we were paying the bill, she said, that is so nice of you guys to give your wives the day off and take the boys out. And I'm thinking to myself,
bless your heart, honey.
yes, I was thinking that. But I did have a moment where I wanted to be like, no, that is my husband. And these are our boys, right? Yeah. But I also had a moment in that she was just being nice. In her worldview, she could not fathom that was a family unit. And in that moment in time, especially at like 8 o'clock in the morning, was probably not the time I needed to be DEI professional, Christopher. Right? And educate this woman on the bias in which she had. Because she was not doing it with ill intent.
Yeah.
She was literally being nice and kind, in her version of kind, in saying, wow, here are these two gentlemen, they have kids, and they're giving their wives the day off. Yeah. Right? Thank you so much, man. Meal was lovely. We had a great experience. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah.
Right? Because
she just doesn't have that knowledge. It's not her fault.
She doesn't have that knowledge. It's not her fault. Right? I mean, also, she probably was pushing 80, and I felt bad for a woman who was pushing 80. She still needs to be a waitress. Like, what a type of society that we have, somebody who's that old that still needs to work. But that's a whole nother conversation and a whole nother podcast that we can be talking about. But for me, like that was not the moment to educate her.
Yeah.
Right? That was the moment just to receive the kindness that she was giving and say thank you. But I make the joke that after talking to me for 5 minutes, if you can't figure out I'm a gay man, you don't need to know. Right?
Just like, move along.
I don't need to tell you. I don't yes, I still know that people need to come out and, all those type of things, but I'm out. I mean, hell, look at my background. Right? Like, I mean, it's really apparent who I am, right? And how I identify. Also, my political persuasions are behind me. So sorry, folks. But so it's like, this is me being authentic.
Well, and she fully accepted you without even understanding.
That is the Supreme Court decision of Argotheld. It's the text of the Supreme Court decision that codified same-sex marriage. I found that at a store, and I was like, I know where that's going.
Well, and thank goodness that was passed, because I have a great friend of mine that is a psychic medium, and her wife now were able to get married, and they have the most loving relationship of any two people I've ever seen. You can see the look in their eyes when they look at each other, that they were destined and meant for each other, and how that can't be wrong. And that's and I'm glad that we've now allowed them to get married and stuff. And I just hope that the Supreme Court or whoever is in charge doesn't do anything to...
Well, and so, Kevin, I do want to remind people that marriage equality was a Supreme Court decision. It is not constitutional law. And so for those who are out there, you need to understand that we are one Supreme Court decision away from marriage equality being overturned.
Yep.
And so I don't care what side of the political aisle you are on, because being a gay man should not be political.
No.
This should just be, right? But what the message I want to get across is that is the reason why we need the Marriage Equality Act to pass.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you're not marrying that person, then leave it alone. Right? Like, that's a human right, right?
I mean, I don't I don't see the gays walking up to somebody's doorbell and ringing and being like, hello, and trying to recruit you.
I see the Mormons do that, but that's a story for another time. That's another podcast altogether.
I wasn't saying it, Kevin. You did.
And send the emails to Brachelle at. No, I'm kidding.
No, please don't send them to me. I'm in Utah. That's an attack. I still love you. Just please do what you do away from me.
So, and I am, Christopher, I got to tell you, you are so much fun to have on the show, and you are such a delightful soul. I really appreciate the man that you are.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And Brachelle loves you. I can already tell.
Yeah, we would be
Brachelle,
going
what
on
we
way
didn't
too
get
many.
to talk about yet is we're fellow dancers.
Oh my God! Don't get me started.
2 out of 3 of us ain't bad. That's an old song, I think. But you two are both dancers, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how does your dancing journey tie in? Are you using it?
At the moment, no.
Okay, me too. That's okay.
45, your knees aren't as good as they used to be. But I did ballet, tap, jazz, modern, lyrical, ballroom. I taught for the longest time when I was in college. So funny story, agriculture major, and you had to take art classes for your degree, right? Everybody had to take art. Why most of my ag colleagues were taking landscape architecture because that was considered to be an art course. I was taking modern dance.
Yeah.
And so much so that you had to take 3 art classes, and for whatever reason I left them for the last 3 semesters. And I was like, I want to do dance. But then what I found out was, so you'll appreciate this, Rochelle. So I was going into the spring semester, and it was only Modern Dance 2 was being offered. And you had to prereq Modern Dance 1, right? You had to take Modern Dance 1 to get into Modern Dance 2. And I was like, oh man, this is not going to work, right? And so I went to the teacher and said, look, I've danced for 15 years. Is there any way that I could prereq out of get you to prereq me out of Modern 1 so I can just take Modern 2?
Yeah.
And also because Modern 1, it was all this partnering work, and it was the people who had no idea what they were doing. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't have time for this. I actually just want to dance. Right? Don't submit me to that, please. Right. And she was like, okay, well, you need to come to take 2 of my classes, come this Friday and the next Friday. Let me see how you move, all this. And then and after class 1, she was like, I got you. Here, sign the paper. Right. And so I took Modern Dance 2, 3, and 4, my last 3 semesters at Rutgers, because I took the modern dance classes for non-dance majors, right? And we were still at Mason Gross, one of the best art schools in the country. I'm biased. Yes, I know. That's okay. It's my bias is showing. But that's what I was. So in college, I was taking modern dance for my art requirement as an agriculture student.
Oh man, I fought against that in high school. Can't I just have 3 dance classes instead of, all the other ones? And then they're like, okay, well, you can take PE twice. And I'm like, no, I want to dance twice. But
I tried in high school. There was this movement that they were going to allow athletes to not have to take PE, right? Because they were like, well, if you're on the varsity, you're already doing all these things, right? And I went, well, I'm in a dance company. Can't I not have to take PE? And they're like, well, no. And I was like, well, that's not fair.
No.
I was like, I do more I'm more athletic than
Get those football players to come learn this dance and then tell me why I shouldn't be in PE. But that's also such a great message about you knowing who you were and being solidified in that and saying, hey, I know that I may not be able to shine here, and it may deteriorate me in how far I've come in dance, and to have the the guts to walk up to her and say, please just give me a chance. And then she saw that right off the bat. A lot of us, we have that going on, but we never ask. We never do or say or follow that, when on the other side of that is just like this giant amen. But we're so stuck because we're afraid. Don't be afraid, right?
Just go get it.
Yeah.
Go own
And
the
Kevin,
world.
join my dance class. me and Christopher are gonna do one live on Zoom, and
Well, you guys have fun with that. I've had both my hips replaced and stuff, so
Well,
I'm
you're ready to go now. Like
See?
you got new joints. You can join us. You're good.
Yeah.
exactly. Although anyway, but Christopher, I got to tell you, we have enjoyed this conversation so much so that I blew through the last break. So they're going to have to add that in later.
I let that happen. I was like, well, this is fun.
We're having a great time with you, and we've got just about 4.5 minutes left. And I want you to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know that is in your heart to say.
Yeah, I want you to know that you belong. Right? I want you to know that you belong here. So for those who are listening, if you go to my website, there's these awesome cards that say you belong here. And for those who are only listening, it says, give this card to someone who needs a reminder that their bold, authentic self is welcome, dignified, and loved. And you can go to my website at innovationunbiased.com, and there is a link to say, become a belonging champion. And if you fill out the form and you tell me your why why you want to be a belonging champion, I will send you cards in the mail for you to be able to give these out to other people so that you can help me spread the movement of belonging, because everybody needs a reminder that they are welcomed, valued, and loved.
There are so many people who spend their lives and don't ever know that. That is so sad.
Yeah, and I take these cards with me, right? Like, take them on the plane. I just hand them out and been like, I give them to the flight attendants. I'm at the bar. I give them to the bar. Like, I just hand out these cards, and it's just a really great way of just letting people know that who they are is seen, heard, valued, because we have gotten away from that as a society. And I'm trying to do my little part in, spreading as much love as I possibly can. And this is my way of doing it. Also using my white privilege, right? I know I'm a white guy. And I know that I did not create the system of privilege that we have in this society, but I have definitely benefited from it. And it is my responsibility to ensure that we rectify that system. And so I'm going to use my privilege for good. And that's why I started this podcast. That's why I do the work that I do. Been a chief diversity officer for 2 different global organizations. That's why I started Innovation Unbiased, because I want to help other organizations figure out how to create a culture of belonging. And belonging is just not about being at work. Belonging is about everywhere, right? You need to know that you belong at home, at school, in your church, your synagogue, your community center, at work. You also need to know that you belong to yourself. How do you know that you belong right here? Because that's where it starts. And so, the other thing I will say is, if you do not have a good therapist, get one. Because that has really helped me, especially through these turbulent times that we are in. And so let's also break the stigma about mental health, and making sure that we all have good mental health, because it's really much needed. So I want to remind people that they belong here, as bold and as authentic as you want to be.
And Rochelle, I think, I don't know that I've ever said this on the show before, but I want to say it here, and that is, Christopher, you are just an extraordinary human.
I try. There are days that I don't live up to that extraordinariness, but I try every day.
That's the human part. But the extraordinary part is that you try every day, and you seek. I'm willing to bet that you succeed far more than you ever don't succeed.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And Rochelle, you get the last word to take us out. What do you think?
Oh my gosh. Well, Christopher, I guess we'll say bye. This just sucks. But it's kind of become a thing for me to be traveling due to our guests. So someday I'll be there. We'll do something. But thank you, Kevin, for making all this possible. Christopher, thank you so much for being exactly who you are. The world needs you. And I'm so glad that you've made both of these websites available to people. I myself am going to sign up. So I challenge everyone to do the same. Visit his websites, which are innovationunbiased.com. And then also for the podcast, I know I belong when.com. And if you feel like you're ready to tell your story, go to his website, let him know, and he will give you the space, as Kevin and I do, for you to speak and share your story, be heard, seen, and loved. So thank you, Christopher, again, so much. I can't wait to have you back because you're going to have to come back. We already saw that coming. And if you heard the show, I hope you heard us deeply and truly. It comes from the bottom of our soul. We believe in you. You deserve to believe in yourself. So take that with you.
Damn, I wish I'd said that. See you next time, everybody. Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.